Hey, good morning, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us today. My name is Colin Beasley. I'm the Appalachian Trail Conservancy Board Chair. Uh, Saturday morning, 2022. Thank you very much, really. For those of you in Florida, Georgia, the Carolinas, the path of our destructive storm over the last couple of days, our thoughts and prayers are out for all of you. We do hope that you can recover as quickly as possible, and our thoughts are with you. So before we get started, what I'd like to try to do is in our agenda, before I get into the agenda, I'd like to express some of my personal thanks and gratitude to a number of folks. First and foremost, if you're a member or a donor, thank you. Your giving is what has enabled the ATC to protect, manage, and advocate for the trail for nearly 100 years. If we were in person, I'd ask you to stand for a round of applause. But since we're gathering virtually, please just know how grateful I am for you. And also thank you to our ATC volunteers, whether you're working in the trail, in the privies, on the shelters, helping us in our trail centers, supporting our ATC employees, whether you're a member of the board, President's Leadership Council, the Stewardship Council, or the Next Advisory Council, we truly appreciate you. Thank you very much. I'd also like to acknowledge three very, very special volunteers today: Ruben Rosales, Norm Finley, and Ian Hellman Murphy. All three are concluding their service to ATC's board. I really can't say enough about their dedication, their passion, their commitment to the trail and the ATC. I have personally been very fortunate to have their counsel. And in my view, the community has been very, very fortunate to have their service as volunteers. They will be sorely missed. And while we're on the topic of the ATC board, I also want to take a moment to share with our community the board's recognition of Daniel Chazen of Teaneck, New Jersey. The board recently voted to award Dan an honorary membership in the Appalachian Trail Conservancy, one of 58 since the late 1960s. Candidates for honorary membership, really, they must be individuals who have made a distinguished contribution to the trail, independent of paid official duties, been of considerable duration, and demonstrated a long-term commitment to the Appalachian Trail Conservancy. Daniel Chazen meets all those qualifications. Among other contributions, he's been the volunteer editor of the Appalachian Trail Data Book since 1983. The most basic of all guides, updated annually with contributions from all maintaining clubs and the Conservancy's regional and informational staffs. For at least the first 15 of those 40 editions, available to tens of thousands of visitors, it was the primary source of planning information for hikes of all durations and often served as hike diaries. So Daniel, thank you for all you have done and you continue to do. I also want to say thank you to our partners, whether you're the trail clubs, federal, state, or local agencies, numerous trailside communities, members of the AT Landscape Partnership, the senators and Congress representatives and their staffs who support the mission of the AT, and so many more. Last but not least, a very special thank you to the ATC staff for their dedication and hard work. And I'd like to give special thanks to the ATC staff that made this agenda and this annual meeting possible, especially Ian Merrill, Jason Kozlowski, Jordan Bowman, and Kayla Dock. Thank you all very much. So this is my fourth year having the honor and privilege to address you in this capacity. I'm proud of both the board and the staff in their continued pursuit of such a noble mission as ATCs. Our collective pursuit of determining how we will meet the vision of Benton MacKaye and in a short time, celebrate the astonishing successes of our volunteers, partners, members, and donors, past and present, whose efforts brought us to this 100-year anniversary opportunity is an incredible and important responsibility. And the board and staff are taking that very seriously. As we approach this 100th anniversary, I ask all of us to imagine the passion of those who preceded us in dreaming about and executing a 2,200-mile trail. Imagine their commitment to a seemingly impossible mission and their efforts both on and off the trail to make it a reality. Imagine what they would think today if they could return and look at the outcome. Now I'd ask you to imagine what opportunity lies in front of us to have an equally profound and meaningful impact on that resource we call the trail. Imagine how we might want to define it beyond just its length in miles. Imagine our definition being much more expansive. The visitor's experience, the viewscape that folks can admire, the knowledge that where they are walking or simply visiting is contributing to the lasting beauty in nature over which we collectively have stewardship. How our efforts contribute to nature's resiliency to the challenge of climate, regardless of your beliefs as to its cause. And how the trail and surrounding realm has become a centerpiece for recreation. I am sure the founders of this trail and realm, excuse me, concept would never have dreamt that this resource would be so meaningful to so many aspects of our life. And I'd like to quote a few lines from the Summer AT Journeys. The Appalachian Trail landscape is really, the journeys actually represented 4 or 5 major areas that I think are worth considering. First, the Appalachian Trail is the most important region of biodiversity and climate resiliency in Eastern North America. The Appalachian Trail is the largest, most resilient stock of forest carbon in the continental United States. It is a supplier of water resources to 119 million people. It's an opportunity for investment in surrounding communities, and it's a unifier that can bring people together across political and regional divisions. So just imagine, what would you like to see if you were able to return in 100 years? What would make you proud as a legacy that you left or that you enabled? Just imagine. The AT staff and board are doing that imagining, and we're proceeding deliberately and purposefully with hope and courage to define and implement what we can imagine, all with your help. Finally, as I do every year, I ask that we all periodically give pause to our day. Slow your mind, let your heart lead. Live in the moment for a period. Go outside for a hike or a walk. Stop, sit, just observe. Sometimes we should just slow down and put into perspective what we are doing and recognize there is a very large horizon in front of us. And we have an opportunity to define how such an incredible resource over which we have stewardship can serve as its foundation. So now for the agenda. We have until about noon today. First, we'll hear from Sandy Mara, our president and CEO. When Sandy's finished, she'll hand off the conversation to Trish Shannon, our ATC board member and treasurer. And then we'll take some questions. Please send in your questions as each speaker is presenting. We can sort them accordingly for answers at the end of the session. You should see the email address at the bottom of your screen. If it's not there, it's election@appalachiantrail.org. Again, election@appalachiantrail.org. Finally, I'll review the results of the board election. So why don't we get started? Sandy, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Thank you, Colin. Good morning, everyone. I definitely want to second Colin's comments about thinking about everyone south of us here. We actually have an employee that lives in Florida, so our VP of People and Culture, so think about her, and our sister trail organization, the Florida Trail Organization. I know that the volunteers down there in Florida are going to have quite a job ahead of them, as I'm sure, as we know, all of our volunteers do often with these big storms. So thinking about all of you. It's really great to be here today and welcome you to our 2022 annual meeting. As Colin said, I'm Sandy Mara, President and CEO of the Appalachian Trail Conservancy, or ATC for short. Our annual meeting is an opportunity for us to come together, and we really appreciate that you're here. If this is your first annual meeting, welcome. We're really happy that you have joined us, and we're honored that you took your time out on a Saturday morning to be here. If you're joining us again this year, thank you. Thanks for staying with us and doing these Saturday morning meetings, and we're very happy to see you. As you all know, the Appalachian Trail is often referred to as the People's Trail, and that is because it is exactly what it is. A century ago, an ordinary forester, planner, and conservationist named Benton Mackay came up with an extraordinary idea, a single footpath that would connect Georgia to Maine. It took 16 years and thousands of volunteers to complete. And to this day, ordinary people like us keep the dream of the trail alive and moving forward as a way of honoring the past, celebrating the present, and giving a gift to all future generations. You are all here today because you have chosen to support the ATC. And for this, we thank you. I hope that you have found your support of our work deeply meaningful. The purpose of today's meeting is to bring us all together and to talk about what you have achieved over the last year by supporting ATC's work. Since the Appalachian Trail Conservancy was founded, you can really think of our work as falling into three key pillars: protect, experience, and belong. For protect, we protect the Appalachian Trail and its surrounding lands, primarily in three ways: through large landscape conservation, by managing and maintaining the habitats of the land we protect. As Colin mentioned, and as I'm sure you know, the AT is one of the most biodiverse units of the National Park Service. And by ensuring protection of the AT through a robust policy and advocacy program. With the second pillar, experience, we create a world-class recreational experience for all. And we do that by ensuring that the AT is well maintained, by helping all members of the public, from the dog walker to the thru hiker, create the experience of their dreams, and by ensuring that people are properly educated in responsible use of the trail. And finally, and last, but in some ways most importantly, the work we do is so that there is a sense of belonging for all people to the Appalachian Trail. We believe that the trail is here for everyone, and we work to ensure that it can be enjoyed by all. When you support the ATC, you help advance each of these three areas. You may be wondering, well, what does that actually mean, though? So let me give you a few very specific examples of projects that you helped to advance this past year. First, together we helped conserve 21,300 acres of land in Maine. As some of you may know, land conservation in the eastern U.S. is an intricate patchwork of land protection efforts. Recognizing that no one conservancy or land trust can do this alone, we created the Appalachian Trail Landscape Partnership with our key partner, the National Park Service. This program brings together approximately 100 partners across the East Coast to help increase the pace and scale of landscape conservation, especially taking into account protection that enhances the AT experience and plays a role in mitigating climate change. The AT and its surrounding lands are globally significant. Through private contributions from people like you, we were able to advance efforts in Grafton Forest, which resulted in protecting 21,300 acres of land. The ATC has a Wild East Action Fund, where we make contributions to the conservation efforts of our partners. This fund is made up of gifts from individuals like yourselves. This was a collaborative effort, as all of our work is, and your contributions help protect land that provides recreational opportunities, as well as the ability for us to rewild an area of ecological significance. We save trees along the Appalachian Trail, all those trees with those white blazes. Once we protect land, we work to ensure that the land is healthy and flourishing. Each year, the ATC engages in dozens of projects from Georgia to Maine that involve things like invasive species removal, native plant restoration, pollinator habitat maintenance, species protection, tree plantings, and more. You may wonder why we engage in such a vast scope of projects. The reason is because when one species is at risk, it has a cascading effect on the ecosystem around it. The AT would be a lot less beautiful and inspiring if we didn't take this exceptional care of it. The care is also necessary, sorry, I'm turning my notes here, for ensuring the clean air and water we enjoy in our communities along the East Coast. As you may know, ash trees in the United States are at serious risk. They are threatened by an invasive species known as the emerald ash borer. Our staff takes painstaking care to visit sections of the AT, evaluate ash trees, and inject each tree with a treatment. This process is the only known treatment in existence and must be applied on a 3-year cycle. Through your support, together we saved over 1,000 trees in 2022. Finally, we opened a state-of-the-art trail center in Damascus, Virginia. I'm very proud to share that in August of 2022, we opened a truly extraordinary new trail center in Damascus, Virginia, known as Trail Town, USA. Our trail centers are very important to us as they serve as welcome centers for those visiting the AT. As I said before, we want everyone to feel truly welcome. So I think the best way for us to really, for you to get a feel for this new trail center is we've got a video here that's going to give you a sense of what visitors will experience when they actually step foot in.
Nestled in the rolling hills of Southwest Virginia, just a few miles from Tennessee and North Carolina borders, lies the town of Damascus. It's a small town with a big claim to fame. Several nationally known trails, including the Appalachian Trail, intersect within the town limits, making Damascus Trail Town, USA. A brand new visitor center has opened in Damascus, thanks to partnership between the town, Friends of Southwest Virginia, and the Appalachian Trail Conservancy. The center acts as a regional hub, connecting visitors with a broad range of outdoor resources in the region. It's a welcoming space where visitors of all ages learn how to recreate responsibly and care for the environment. Exhibits include information about the history of Damascus and outdoor activities in the Mount Rogers High Country and the 3 national trails that converge here. Visitors are invited to share their experiences in the outdoors and what nature means to them. A classroom off the main hall houses temporary exhibitions, group meetings, and educational workshops. Visitors can also pick up a t-shirt or hat, maps, and guidebooks before leaving the center. A carved wooden map mounted on a plaque recognizes the generous donors who made the visitor center possible. Outdoors, past gardens with native plants is a workshop stocked with tools and equipment for the volunteers who help maintain the Appalachian Trail and keep it safe for everyone. The Damascus Trail Center is an exciting addition to a town committed to helping people develop a closer connection to the outdoors.
These examples represent just a few highlights of ATC's work over the last year. The reality is that for a small staff of about 60 people, we advance dozens of these projects annually, striving to make the AT experience a little more beautiful, a little more protected, and a little more welcoming to all. We do not take any dollar contributed to the ATC for granted. We put it to great use for you. Thank you for your trust, your commitment, and your support. I hope that you are all very proud of all that you have helped to achieve. With that, I'd now like to turn this over to Trish Shannon, ATC board member and treasurer.
Thank you, Sandy, and good morning, everyone. My name is Trish Shannon, ATC board member and treasurer, as Sandy mentioned, and it's an honor to serve you and to serve the ATC. I joined the ATC board in August 2020 and have been the treasurer since August 2021. And I'm inspired every day by the dedication of the donors, volunteers, and staff of the Appalachian Trail Conservancy. I'd like to extend my thanks to you for your commitment and many contributions to the Appalachian Trail Conservancy. And I sincerely thank you for taking time out of your weekend to meet with us today. And I'd like to join Sandy and Colin in acknowledging the folks who have been impacted by the recent storms and continue to have the impact with the aftermath. Our thoughts are with them today. My goal for today is to take a few moments to share with you what has been achieved financially through your support of ATC's work toward fulfilling our vision of the Appalachian Trail and its surrounding landscape being protected forever for all to enjoy. As Sandy noted, the ATC completes dozens of projects each year, up and down our 2,200 miles of trail. And we pride ourselves in being responsible custodians of the contributions you so generously make. And one question we sometimes hear from members is, I only donate $50 a year. Does my gift actually make a difference? And at the ATC, we always stop our donors from saying only, because the truth of the matter is that every contribution really does make a difference. Whether you give $50 a year or $1 million a year, you all share two things in common. Number one, you really love the Appalachian Trail Conservancy and are passionate about our work. And number two, you are all giving to an organization that cares deeply about you and will make the best use of your contribution. So let's take a moment to show how important your gift really is. We'll go to the next slide, which shows our sources and uses of funds and is based on the information contained in our statement of activities. And I'd like to note that the financial information I'm presenting in the next two slides are from our 2021 audited financial statements, upon which we received an unmodified or clean audit opinion. And this is the gold standard. So looking at the sources of funds pie chart, which is the chart on your left, you can see that the vast majority of dollars contributed to the ATC comes from people like you. That is to say that 69% of our revenue comes from membership and contributions. And our other large revenue source is from federal and state grants and contracts. Now looking at the uses of funds pie chart, which is the pie chart on your right, you can see that the vast majority of expenses, 83%, went toward critically important projects like the one Sandy just mentioned. Now, the other side of the ledger, so to speak, is the statement of financial position, or the balance sheet. And this is a financial snapshot at a point in time, which is the fiscal year end date. So for December 31, 2021, ATC's total assets were $33.8 million and net assets were $21.5 million. And this represents growth over the previous years. Through this, I hope that you can see the cumulative impact of a membership gift, that it's so vast. And when you all come together and give in a way that is personally meaningful to you, you sustain the work of the entire ATC. This is how we have been able to do what we have done for the past 100 years, and we thank you for it. Our next slide is the key indicator slide. And this slide highlights the top line revenue, expenses, and the program expense ratio over the past 4 years. As you can see on this slide, we have been fortunate to see an increase in contributions over the past 4 years, even as the economy has experienced some major challenges, including the pandemic. We are grateful for your consistent and generous support. And as you can see on this slide, as noted in the 2021 pie chart in the previous slide, ATC has consistently spent about an average of 80% each year of our total expenditures on our programmatic work in order to advance the 3 strategic areas of focus that Sandy's touched upon: protecting the Appalachian Trail, creating a world-class recreational experience, and building a community of support for the AT where everybody feels welcome. And now my last slide is the volunteer contribution slide. Colin noted in his remarks how grateful we are for the legions of volunteers who dedicate themselves so tirelessly to maintaining the trail and ensuring a safe and enjoyable hiking experience for all of us. I would like to share with you some data on the impact of volunteers in 2021. In 2021, 3,758 people dedicated an average of 47 hours each. As Colin noted, these are folks working on the trails, helping in trail centers, supporting ATC employees, and working on the board, the President's Leadership Council, the Stewardship Council, and the Next Gen Advisory Council. So using data from the independent sector, the value of those 3,758 people averaging 47 hours a year, or 176,048 hours in total for 2021, resulted in the equivalent of a $5 million investment in the AT. So that's the equivalent of a $5 million investment in the AT. That is truly impressive. And we thank you for that. And it's just another example of the importance of donors and volunteers like you. So now I'd like to end my treasurer's report by saying that in addition to being excellent stewards, we pride ourselves in transparency. So for those of you who are wishing to explore our audited financial statements in greater depth, please visit our website, appalachiantrail.org, for more information. And again, thank you for your support. We truly appreciate you. And now I'll turn things back over to Colin.
Hey, thanks very much, Trish. And Sandy, thank you as well. Before we get into our Q's and A's, what I'd like to do is recognize our board officers. First, Rob Hutchison, who is our vice chair. Obviously, you've met Trish Shannon, our treasurer, Sandy Mara, our president and CEO. Jim Latore, who's our secretary, pardon me, and Dan Howe, who serves as the chair of the Stewardship Council at the current time, is also the chair of the Conservation Committee and is a board member of the Executive Committee. So thank you to all those people as well. For those of you who have any questions, you should see the email address at the bottom of your screen, election@appalachiantrail.org. Again, election@appalachiantrail.org. We have folks standing by to receive those emails with your so they can distribute the questions to one of the three of us. So Ann, I'm going to hand this over to you and let's get started with the Q's.
Good morning, Colin. Would you like to announce the results of the election before we begin the Q&A?
Sure, we could do that. Pardon me. The election came in, hold on a minute, my data is a little bit in another location. The election was 94.5% of the voters approved the slate. So I want to congratulate the candidates and welcome to the board. The candidates, as you know, for those of you who were took the time to vote, John Knapp and Trish Shannon were two candidates who were re-elected to the board, and three new members of the board were Catherine Ross, Rita Hennessy, and Yong Lee. So congratulations to the five of them, and thank you for all of those who took the time to vote. Go ahead, Ann.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Sandy, I think this is a question for you. What is the ATC doing to increase access and inclusiveness for people who are deaf and hard of hearing, both in its events, like this one today, for example, as well as in bringing in more deaf and hard of hearing leaders or participants at ATC events? Thanks.
So I want to thank whoever sent that question in and allowing us to at least start the conversation in this forum. You know, as I've said from the beginning, it is the People's Trail. It's a public resource, and so are our programs. And we're committed to ensuring that these resources can be enjoyed by all. So we have done some things, including taking advantage of new technologies like YouTube automatic translation. And this meeting, people can go after this live presentation to YouTube and see it using that technology. But, you know, I think the best thing is to really acknowledge the question and also say that we're willing to listen, and we need to tap into your expertise as well to help us find the way forward. So what I'd like to do is actually invite you to contact us directly at info@appalachiantrail.org. And we'll also respond to this question in writing afterwards to share your experiences and thoughts. And we really do want to better understand how we can become a much more inclusive organization, both in how we present ourselves outwardly and how we structure ourselves internally. And we welcome all comments and input from our supporters and members. And so thank you.
Great. Thanks. Thanks so much, Sandy, for that answer. Colin, here's a question for you. As one of the most important ATC volunteers, what would you say to someone considering becoming more involved with the ATC?
Thanks for that question, Ann, and to whomever submitted it. Listen, first I would say to the person, thank you very much for wanting to take some time to volunteer and to choose among all the options to volunteer at the Appalachian Trail Conservancy or in any regard as it relates to the Appalachian Trail. It's a wonderful opportunity here. The people who are involved in the Appalachian Trail up and down the 2,200 miles, as I indicated in my opening remarks, the opportunities are manifold, from digging in the dirt to sitting with staff and helping staff. It's very, very important work. And as I also included in my opening remarks, the amount of impact that the Appalachian Trail and the Appalachian Trail Conservancy can have on the future is just staggering. And I'm humbled, frankly, by the volunteers that are sitting here day in and day out, assisting us in our mission. I've been humbled since day one in joining the President's Leadership Council. Gosh, it was 7-8 years ago now. Every single day that I work with staff, I'm humbled by their dedication. So I think that you would not be disappointed by your contribution. You will be grounded in a great historical event called the Appalachian Trail, and you will have a contribution to something that's going to outlive all of us on this call today. It's been around for 100 years. It's going to be around for the next 100 years. And this is such an opportune time to be engaged in this conservancy, because we're defining that next 100 years, and the decisions we make are going to be something that will sit in the legacy of you as you become a volunteer, and all of us who have been volunteers so far. Thank you.
Thank you, Colin. That was really inspiring. Here's a question for Trish. Trish, I heard that the Appalachian Trail Conservancy received funding from the Mountain Valley Pipeline. Could you share what ATC is planning to do with those funds?
Yes, thanks, Anne, for the question, and thank you to whomever submitted the question. I think that the best way to give you this information is to point you to last year, the last year Treasurer's report at the 2021 annual meeting. The Treasurer last year did a detailed overview of the MVP commitment, and the video of his presentation is available in 2 areas. You can find it in the YouTube description for this meeting, and also at appalachiantrail.org 2022 meeting, and you can find a link to the last year's Treasurer report. And when you click on that link, you will find an in-depth summary of the MVP stewardship commitment for land acquisitions and community support.
Thank you, Trish. That was really helpful. Sandy, back over to you. Colin asked us to imagine the future of the Appalachian Trail. So what do you hope the trail will be like 20 or 50 years from now?
Wow, that's a great question. And I actually, when you ask it, I'm sitting here thinking, well, I've been working on the Appalachian Trail for next year will be 40 years, which is kind of amazing in and of itself. So bringing that perspective and then thinking about the next 40, it will probably be without me sitting on the screen in a few years. I don't know if I've got another 40 in me for it, but I think it really goes back to what I said at the beginning, which is really at the beginning of ATC, is that we have been working on 3 pillars: protect, experience, and belong. But I do think that all of those things, as so many things in our life seems to be, the pressures and the need to think differently about how we do that work is just happening at such an accelerated pace. You know, the scale and need to do landscape conservation is it's it's already happened, things that we need to be doing today, let alone what we should be planning to do tomorrow. And once those areas are gone, once the development takes place, it's almost impossible to get it back to a place where we could truly protect it. So the these globally significant lands, the urgency for that work, not just for us, but for all of our partners and all along the East Coast, is probably one of the most critical things that we have to be looking at, both in the short and the midterm levels, to see how we can scale that up. And that also includes then protecting the resources on those lands, both the lands that we currently have protected, as well as bringing on new lands as well. Invasive species continue to accelerate. So all of that work is truly critical. I think the experience too is getting to, we're recognizing new pressures that we never really imagined. And I didn't even imagine 40 years ago when I started. Population as a whole is exploding. COVID in particular seemed to really wake up the American public in particular about the value of our trails and being able to get outside and into nature. So we have more users than ever, more dog walkers as well as more thru hikers. And so we really have to see how we can meet this increased demand and protect the treadway and build sustainable trail management approaches to everything that we do. And we also have to make sure that as people come onto our trails, we continue to help them see the connection between their enjoyment, the recreational value of those lands, to also each individual's conservation responsibility. These are truly public lands. And so it definitely means that it's public for our use, but it also means that it's the public's responsibility to ensure their protection, and that these lands remain protected and in a way that future generations can have these same kinds of experiences. And then the third element is building that trail of a truly welcoming place for all. As the first question that you asked me, and there are a myriad of barriers, some of which we are aware of, some of which, honestly, we don't even always think of. And so it needs to be a collaborative and a community effort, I believe, to really address those in a systematic way. ATC is firmly committed, both, as I said before, both with how we present ourselves externally and work with the trail, as well as how we structure our organization internally, to be truly inclusive. And so the Trail of the Future is going to hopefully have much fewer barriers so that future generations can thoroughly enjoy it coming from where they're coming from, rather than in some structured way that has maybe been designed in the past. So thanks, Ann.
And I'm going to make a comment too. I think Sandy's right on in that regard. And I think one of the things that I think about often is the Appalachian Trail and whose interest does it help or serve? And it is a people's trail. And oftentimes many people look at it as, it's a hiker's trail, but it's more than a hiker's trail, right? It's a scientist's trail. It's a naturalist trail. It's anybody who's looking for entertainment, anyone who's looking for a peace of mind, anybody who's looking for exercise. It's the walker's trail. It's the wanderer's trail. It's a trail for everybody. And I think what's important is as we unfold the next 20, 50, 100 years, that we recognize its usefulness to so many different aspects of society, and that we open it up for all of them. Pardon me. So I just wanted to make that comment as well.
Great. Thank you, Colin. Thank you, Sandy. I think the last question I'd also like to turn over to you, Sandy. You expressed a lot of things about what you imagine the future of the trail will be like. It sounds like that's going to take some resources to make happen. So what would you say is ATC's area of greatest need?
It's there's two areas, I think. One is people here today, people that are members of our trail clubs that go on, join our crew work. The trail was built, it's current, and it's maintained by volunteers. And so volunteers will always remain at its core and will always be the greatest asset. And it will also always be our greatest need, is for that to continue. But you're right, there's there's time, and then there's paying the bills. And so some of it is more tactical, and we do need resources to continue to do the work among those three pillars of protecting, experiencing, and belonging. And so continuing to support ATC financially, as well as with your time and expertise, all of those things combined can get us to where we need to go in the next 50 to 100 years.
Well, thank you to all of our speakers for answering the questions this morning. And for those of you who submitted questions that we did not address during this live stream, we will follow up with you directly via email afterwards. So with that, I'd like to turn it back over to you, Colin, to conclude.
Thanks, Ann. And thanks again, Trish and Sandy. I appreciate that. So that's going to conclude our 2022 annual meeting. For those of you who joined us, thank you for all taking the time out of your busy schedules. It's a Saturday morning. I'm sure there's a long list of to-dos that everyone likes to do. So thank you for taking the time with us. Your support is important to us, whether it's financial, through your efforts in volunteering, or both. We appreciate all that you do, and we can't thank you enough for that, for those contributions and that effort. So that's it. Thanks again, and have a great day.